Ladies and gentlemen, the Flex Network is back from the mini vacation that we took, the holiday break, the hiatus, the whatever you want to call it. And my oh my, has plenty of things happened since we've been gone. I am Flex Mike, and on the other side of the glass is none other than Cowboy Cam. What's up, man?
Oh man, all is good. What's going on in the world?
Just living the dad life. You know how it is. Or you
Oh,
will.
getting ready for
Yeah,
the getting
you
ready
will
for the
know
bad life.
for sure.
Oh man,
So since we talked, a lot of things have happened. Man, we haven't talked in quite some time, but just kind
yeah.
of touch base here. The Cowboys did not make the playoffs. They dropped to the Eagles. The Eagles then turn around and lose to the Seahawks in the playoffs. But we'll get into that whole wild card weekend because, oh my God, what a weekend of
It was.
football that
Oh
was.
man,
Every single game was
it was
good.
perfect. Yes. No, I had no complaints, none whatsoever.
Yeah, it was incredible. So I'm not sure how other people felt about the game, but or about just the games in general, but I enjoyed all of them for like the first time in a long time because normally there's like some sprinkled in blowouts or just
Yep.
like oh, this game is going to end 6-3 or something.
So no,
um
oh no, every game was a defensive masterpiece, but there was enough offense to keep you entertained, and so I loved it.
Right. So, yeah, it was a really good just weekend of football. But before we get into that, let's kind of go into some of this just the movement I'll say that has taken place in the NFL. A couple of things. Matt Rule, formerly the head coach of the Baylor Bears, has moved to take the head coaching position at for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
The Carolina Panthers front office slash owner slash GM, whatever, had to actually buy him out of his contract at Baylor. So they had to pay. I can't, I can't
Six
remember.
million, six
Yeah,
million
six.
dollars.
Okay, I was gonna say 6 or 2, but 2 wouldn't have been that big
Yeah.
of a deal. But yeah, so they had to pay him $6 million, or they had to pay the university $6 million just to release him or whatever, so that he could get out. And then now we're talking about Matt Rule over coaching for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
They have relatively new owners, and I think it's just kind of like a fresh start that they've needed for quite some time.
Yes.
Cam Newton may or may not be there next season. That still remains to be seen. If I was going to put money on it, I would say that he wouldn't be there.
No, I
But
don't. I don't see it.
yeah, but Matt Rule signs what he signs for $60 million. So
I think what 7 years, 60 million.
yeah, so they they
Yeah.
they paid a nice little chunk there.
Oh yeah.
So that's interesting. And then we got pretty much if you have ever been affiliated with the name Patriots at any point in your life, you probably at least got an interview somewhere.
Special teams coach, and
Yeah.
there's only been one. There's only been one of those I've seen get a head coaching job, and that one has panned out in John Harbaugh. So I mean, oh gosh, I'm really iffy about it. I don't know. I don't. I hear great things about the man. How his control over special teams. The Patriots won a lot of games using special teams, so I mean, I'm okay with it, but I don't think he fits what the New York Giants need. No.
Well, I'll just say this. I was kind of doing my homework on him a little bit because I was like, who the heck is this guy? This real like dark horse candidate over here that like no one really expected. Everyone was like, whoa, that's where Jason Garrett's going, and that's where this guy's going, and that
Yeah.
guy's going. But
Matt Rule was supposed to go, so that's the
yeah.
crazy part.
But some of the things I was reading is that over this last season, that Bill Belichick recognized what he had and kind of delegated some of the head coaching responsibilities to him. Nothing too major, but just some things to kind of see what he can handle and see what he was actually. But Without Bill Belichick formally, coming out and like endorsing him, I think he's done enough to endorse him. And so,
Oh
um,
yeah.
the idea of him not being a fit in New York, that's a possibility. But one thing I would also say is that, um, if he really is the man for the job, he can come in and just change the culture. He can make
Oh
it his
yeah.
he can make it his own thing, and build it how he wants it built, along, obviously in good connection with the GM and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens there. I think that the New York Giants have some young pieces in place. They've got some young defenders that are good. They need to continue to draft well, and they're going to have to
Oh yeah.
play the free agent market well and all that good stuff. So we'll see what happens there. Is there any head coaching move that absolutely surprised you? I mean, we know about Jason Garrett; he was on the way out, so
Oh
that's
yeah. No, that didn't surprise me.
that's not really a thing outside of Cowboys, because I know you're kind of immersed in the Cowboys culture and stuff like that. So
The
just anything else,
well, the main one that caught my attention that I was really wanting to talk about was the Ron Rivera hire in Washington,
right?
and the fact of they're not gonna hire a GM until after the draft. So it sounds to me as if Ron Rivera is going to get the draft of players he thinks he needs, which it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Because say the GM you bring in doesn't see eye to eye with Ron Rivera, just kind of like the what happened in Carolina, you can possibly have a repeat of that, But I love Ron Rivera as a coach, and the Redskins they have a good defense. They got young players. They've drafted several Alabama defensive linemen, and those guys play well and they play hard for the Redskins. And so it'll be really interesting to see what unfolds. I know their defense will be fine. I want to know what's going to happen with God. What's the quarterback's name? Dwayne Haskins. I'm really interested in to see how that's going to work out because he ended up hiring his offensive coordinator, Scott Turner, from Carolina as well onto his staff. And so I want to know is he planning on bringing in a quarterback, drafting a quarterback, or does he believe that Scott Turner can get Dwayne Haskins to the level that we expect him to be at? So that was one of the most shocking moves to me because I really thought not Carolina, but the New York Giants would overpay him. Would overpay for Ron Rivera, but it kind of shows that Gettleman wants to be in control in New York. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes up the NFC East.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not the traditional way of as far as hiring coaches, or the coach GM combination. But I'll say that when Pete Carroll first got hired in Seattle, they hired him before they hired John Schneider, the general manager. So it can be
That's
done.
true.
It can be a
Yep.
successful partnership. We just haven't seen it done a whole lot of times, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so to say that every team is going to have as happy as a marriage as Pete Carroll and John Schneider have is kind of like an unfair place to put the bar. But
Yep.
I'll just say that it can be done if you get two personalities that gel and work well together and all that. It can be done. I will tell you one thing about Ron Rivera that I was really impressed with, that some local media there caught up with him and were asking him questions, and they didn't ask him anything all too specific, like, hey, what are you looking forward to most about getting started, something as basic as that. And he starts spitting out some like Washington Redskins history, like, oh yeah, well they haven't had a Super Bowl since this year, and then this year they did
Mm.
this, and this year they did that, and his facts were just on point, which just tells you that he cares about it, that he is doing his homework, that he didn't just accept the first job that anyone was willing to offer him. He like that tells me that he thought about it a little bit and he did his homework. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
so there's, I was impressed there. But let's go ahead. Let's move in on to
Oh, here we
the
go.
hot topics here. Um, and here's Matt right here. He's saying, and get this comment up here. There we go. It says, "How
There
does
it
Mike
is.
McCarthy fit with the Cowboys?" And here's one that's interesting. You get Mike McCarthy, took a year off of football, kind of had an ugly divorce from Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in Green Bay,
Yeah.
um, and he takes a year off of football. And from everything we hear, he just went back to kind of the basics, studying football, understanding formations and different play designs, new ways to be creative. He talked a lot about different shifts and different motions. He did a very big sit down interview with Peter King.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
all the local radio stations here in the Dallas Fort Worth area are picking up on that, and they're basically running with it and just pulling the audio from it and talking about it. And so it's interesting. You never know. I'll say that I was not a fan of it. It's okay because I'm not a Cowboys fan, so it doesn't matter. But was saying that if the Cowboys are going to get the version of Mike McCarthy that we saw the last 3 to 4 years in Green Bay, then all you did was you get a guy like Jason Garrett. I mean, you pretty much get the same thing. But if he is in a position where Jerry Jones is going to give him the opportunity to kind of do his thing, be the coach and all that good stuff, then that's great. And Matt here is saying it perfectly. Mike McCarthy is claiming it was on the general manager.
It
And
was.
and
I
you know
believe.
what?
I
And
believe that.
and
I believe that.
and I will 100% sign off on that. In my opinion, because for years. So the Packers beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl, the one Super Bowl they had under Mike McCarthy, right? That
Yes.
year, the Packers were extremely healthy and they drafted offense and defense in the previous years before that. Every year after that, they drafted, it was completely lopsided. It was like 80% offense, 20% defense.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot win in this league without a defense. You have to draft guys, and you have
Yes.
to have the combination of youth and veterans and all that good stuff. Everyone knows that. But it wasn't until Ted Thompson left as the GM of Green Bay, and then you see it now. Green Bay's defense has kind of had a resurgence.
Oh yeah.
I'll say their secondary has for sure. I don't know about
Oh
the
man,
rest of it, but
I love their draft picks and their secondary. Jair Alexander is exactly what his draft tape showed he would be. Yeah, he gets beat occasionally, but I mean every DB gets beat, but he makes plays. He's a playmaker, and they drafted a safety that I had my Cowboys picking, and Darnell Savage, who played really well as a rookie, and so man, they're making the right moves. I'm not sure who their new GM is, but they drafted very well, and Mike McCarthy's going to catch the short end of the stick when it comes to that. They're going to be like, oh man, you missed out on these guys. Oh man, you had these guys. No, Mike McCarthy didn't have this draft stock that the new Packers have. Yes, Kenny Clark, Kevin King, and these guys. No, the Packers have a formula now, and you're right. As long as you're drafting the balance, the offensive balance and the defensive balance, replacing the players that you lose, because Green Bay isn't a free agent haven. People aren't like, oh, I want to go play in Green Bay. And so you have to make sure that you hit in the draft. And so yeah, Mike McCarthy, he had a point, and also blaming the GM, but also as the head coach, you got to have control over that whole situation in Green Bay, and he let that get way out of hand. I believe he was getting massages during practice time in his office, and he kind of let Aaron Rodgers dictate a lot. Like he let Aaron Rodgers get away with a lot, and when you're a superstar quarterback, a lot of fans are going to be on your side. But for the most part, I've seen a lot of people who talk football say you can't allow Aaron Rodgers to have that kind of power to be changing up your play calls, or if you call a play, throwing the ball away, laughing at your play calls. You're like, yeah, the new generation of offense passed up Mike McCarthy. He just got caught. Yeah, he just got caught in the mix. It just passed him up. He literally went from having a top 10 offense to dropping to around the 15s, and then next thing you know, he was in the 20s, ranked in the 20s offensive wise, and calling, and then he would take it away. And so I think a new fresh start for Mike McCarthy here in Dallas is what he needs.
Yeah, I think that he needs it, and then I would also say that it'll be interesting to see how much uh, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and those guys are gonna let him do his thing. He obviously has the capability to get the right coaches around him. He knows how to draft the players and all of those things. But one thing that has been great for the Cowboys is that Stephen Jones has gained a little bit of influence inside those war rooms, because if it wasn't for that, or Will McClay or any of these other guys who kind of get to whisper in the ear of Jerry
Oh,
Jones. And
this
and
team would
I've
look
said that
completely different.
yeah, I've said this for years about Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones and Vince McMahon, the CEO for WWE, are very similar in the way that they want to run their ship the way they want it ran. And if you are one of those trusted people in the room, you can have a voice. But one of the things that people say about Vince McMahon when it comes to like setting up storylines and stuff like that, you have to be the last person in his ear, because he could change his mind like that, like in a second, and it wouldn't matter. And so I think the great thing about Jerry Jones is that the older he's got, I feel like he's calmed down a little bit, and he has steered away from, he drafted a Zach Martin when I think a part of him really wanted to draft Johnny Manziel.
Yes,
And so
yes.
and so
Uh,
that's a immediate sign that, oh, he's listening to Stephen Jones, or he's
oh yeah.
listening to Will McClay. And so you have to have that. And so I think if the Cowboys would have hired like a Lincoln Riley or a college coach who is kind of unproven, that you would have seen that as a sign of like, oh man, they're really going after this. Like, and a lot of Cowboys fans want this. They want you to go get whoever the sexy coach is or whatever. They want you to get that guy. But I think Jerry Jones realized his roster is very talented, and he needed to bring in a guy right now who could change the culture a little bit. And like, let's be honest, Cam, because there's not a lot of Cowboys fans these days that are being honest about this. The Cowboys severely underplayed and underperformed this year, right? And they had to do that, or they didn't have to do that, but they did that as a result of their coach not really pushing them in the right direction, and they need to be challenged. And I think Mike McCarthy is a guy that can come in and immediately challenge them. So, okay, let's see here. Matt here says if Mike McCarthy is smart, he will let his offensive coordinator run the offense. And I totally agree with that. Mike McCarthy needs to run the offense, or he needs to let the offensive coordinator run the offense, because you're in a situation now where Mike McCarthy is, Mike McCarthy is, he has the football IQ. He can do all of those things. And so if it's true and they are keeping Kellen Moore, then Kellen Moore needs to call the plays, needs to run the offense, needs to do what he's doing. So let's go ahead and move on from that. But Cam, tell me real quick, who I know that some coaches have kind of shuffled around with the Cowboys. So tell me everything I
oh
need to
man.
know
Okay.
about all that.
All right. So Mike McCarthy, it seems that Mike McCarthy has the power to hire the coaches that he wants. And the coaching staff that's been hired is basically the 2005 San Francisco 49ers coaching staff. He's brought in Mike Nolan, who is the linebackers coach in New Orleans. Um, as the defensive coordinator. I'm really interested to see what defense the Cowboys choose to run. I believe they're going to mix it up between a 4-3. You may see a 3-4 front sometimes. They brought in Tom. I'm not sure how to say his last name. It's like Tom Tashula, something like that, who also coaches defensive line, coaches a 3-4 defense. And so I believe once you've got
Wait, time out. Are you
uh,
talking about
once
Jim
you
Tom
got
Sula?
those two guys, a defensive line coach and a defensive coordinator, who are on the same page, you're going to be running. I'm guessing they're switching to a 3-4. Sanjay Lal is out as the receivers coach. I just posted that today. He is no longer the receivers coach. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen with Gary Brown, that coach position. If he's going to decide, if they're going to decide to bring him back or bring in a different coach. Um, Let me see. Hold on.
Yeah, so
Um,
so some of the coaches
Also,
are
basically, the the last position we're waiting to see is offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. He's been offered a position back at University of Washington, his hometown. To come. I'm not sure if to be the head coach or the offensive coordinator there, but I believe Kellen Moore is in a win-win situation. If he goes back to college, he gets control over an offense, gets to build his resume. If he stays with Mike McCarthy, he has to learn Mike McCarthy's offense now. And I don't necessarily know if I like that with Kellen Moore and Dak, both your offensive coordinator and your quarterback having to learn a new offense, new verbiage, all at the same time together. Okay. Having to learn an offense all at the same time together. I'm not sure how that'll gel necessarily. I would like Mike McCarthy to bring in someone to that knows his offense, And I love Kellen Moore. I believe what Kellen Moore did last season was very impressive. Because if you think about it, the Cowboys were only bad in situational football. They were fine outside of that. They would literally make key mistakes here and there, or not running the right play on 3rd and 1, or instead of running the ball, throwing the ball. Instead of throwing the instead of throwing the ball, you're running the ball. And so if Mike McCarthy just has to come in and fix that, be better situationally, which Mike McCarthy's all right. He's all right in situational situations. We saw a lot of Aaron Rodgers saving the Packers. Not necessarily him coaching to win a game in clutch situations. But all he has to do is come in and be the man in charge of the team. Have your teams ready. Be ready to take over in situations, but also let Kellen Moore, you know, do what he did last season. Let him gain experience and work the offense. And I believe if you can do that, the Cowboys should be fine. There was I didn't have any problems with the offense necessarily. They just weren't ready for when they played playoff teams. They weren't ready. They came out flat, which is on the players and the coaches as well. And so I believe when Michael McCarthy was with the Packers, I didn't see necessarily his offense not ready to play, or even his defense. Even when his defense wasn't as talented, they still came out to play. They still would make plays. And so if they can get that balance going, get that coaching staff in there to to lay out their foundation onto the players, in which the players, a lot of the players showed up to the press conference for welcoming Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys should win the division and be well off into the playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because there has not really been any debate on the talent level of the team, how strong they are in certain positions. Everyone across the board has pretty much said, "Hey, this is a very talented team. This roster is stacked. You just got the coaching has to be up there with on the same level that the talent is." And so,
Yes.
and a lot of times I feel like talent needs to be checked. Like a guy like Ezekiel Elliott needs to be checked, and you
Yes.
need to say, "Hey, dude, you're getting $80 million. All this crybaby stuff needs to end. Like Dak Prescott is playing for a minimum. He's playing for a crappy amount, and he's putting forth more
Oh my
effort.
gosh.
All these receivers, like you need to look at it and say, hey, Amari Cooper, guess what? This dude's over here playing for the not the franchise tag, but he's on his 5th-year option, right? Amari Cooper's not stressing about his contract, but a guy like Zeke wants to hold out, and so you need to use that as like, hey, if you do the right thing, you will get your money if you ball out. You just have to continue to do the right thing, and if you can't do that, then that's just you got to play better. There's no other way around it. And so looking at a team like the Cowboys, it anyone can see that they're just in desperate need of some quality coaching. And it's long
Yeah,
overdue,
that's it.
and it's a good thing. And Mike McCarthy's there, and it's a good replacement. So now let us
I
move
just want to highlight. I
on.
just want to highlight this one comment real quick.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Oh my gosh, man. Yes, the biggest chip on his shoulder. What Dak Prescott did this season takes guts. To say, hey, I know my worth. I'm gonna go out here and ball. And the one knock that was against Dak was, hey, all right, you got the wins, but your stats aren't there. You don't got the stats. Well, I mean, my God said, hey, I can put up, I can put up numbers just with the best of them, and so I love it. I thank you for putting some appreciation on Dak, Matt. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, yeah, I mean he was kind of in the MVP conversation there for a few weeks, and he fell out of
Yep.
it. And
It happened.
the only reason I didn't continue in my in where I have MVPs and stuff like that. The only reason I didn't continue to have him in the conversation was because the guys who are in the MVP conversation are guys that no matter how bad your team is or how good your team is,
They're
you can
winning.
go you can go
Yes.
out and win the game for your team.
Yes.
And so yeah, that's just kind of like what the MVP award is designed around, And so
Oh
if
yeah.
if you're not capable of doing that, then maybe you're not in the top 3 or 4 for consideration. But let's go ahead and move on real quick because I want to get to this because Matt put a question up here earlier. He actually put 2, but
He put
I
oh yeah,
there's
he put two good ones and I'm loving it.
yeah, but one of them is directly in reference to the Tennessee Titans, which I find to be a very intriguing team. It says, "What are the
I've been
chances the Titans get to the AFC Championship?" And
oh,
one of the things I want to say is, I know everyone in America, whether your team was in the playoffs or not, they were just loving the fact that the Titans went into Foxborough and beat the Patriots. They love that. Derrick Henry is a
that's a
man right
grown
now.
man. That's a grown man.
Yeah. On this podcast we interviewed Bobby Ramsey, who was Derrick Henry's high school football coach,
Oh my
and
gosh.
he had a lot of nice things to say about Derrick Henry, and he kind of gave us some insight with what Derrick Henry is, because what's the stigma with Alabama running backs is they go to
They
the
don't make they
NFL,
don't
they
and
flop, right?
yes.
Exactly. So the only 2 that come to my memory that have really done anything is number 1 being Mark Ingram, and then number 2 being Derrick
Yep.
Henry. And I don't think people realize how big Derrick Henry is, but guess what? Baltimore plays
He's massive.
Tennessee this weekend. And when you see a picture of Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry standing side by side, you're going to be like, oh,
It's
that's cute.
oh
Derrick Henry took a picture with that 8th grader. That's what you're going to think. And so I mean, he's
oh
a
man.
massive human being. He was unstoppable against New England.
Yes.
New England had no answer for him. He had 100 yards before the first half was even over. More than 100 yards. I was just saying that's kind of like NFL running backs kind of weigh themselves with that. It was like, man, if I can get 100 yards this game, then like
Yeah,
that's
I
the
have a great
bar.
game. Yeah.
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 Dude went off against New
Oh
England
man.
and was the main reason why they won the game, and just completely took over that game because Ryan Tannehill was not the reason they won that game.
No, no,
AJ Brown had
not
one catch.
one catch. Shut down.
Exactly. So
But
we'll see.
I do like what Ryan Tannehill did was taking that back seat. Hey, take the back seat and let your best player do what he does. Also, I don't know if you've seen, but they highlighted Derrick Henry's high school career. He rushed for 12,000 yards in high school and what 150 touchdowns. Who does that? Like 12,000 yards. Man, most of the best running backs, in high school have at least, two 2,000 yard seasons. This man had basically four of those as a like from freshman to senior year. So this is a grown man we're talking about. And so I was on the Titans bandwagon once Ryan Tannehill got there, and I'm so glad to see them take out the New England Patriots. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I see people who are just like who are fans of teams who actually have teams in the playoffs, but they're like, man, I'm just so happy the Patriots lost. Like they don't even care. They're just
Yes.
loving it.
It's
Um,
it's honestly to me, it's the way they lost. They did not want to hit Derrick Henry. Like
yeah.
that final drive to go before the interception, the pick six. That final drive was all Derrick Henry. It was all him.
Yeah,
They
that's
were
what
able to just give him the ball that many times, and literally he averaged almost a first down every carry. Oh my gosh.
yeah, that's what you do when you get, when you get a guy
And so
who's a
I'm
true
really interested to
bruiser.
see whether the Ravens. I want to know if the Ravens can stop them. I want to see that.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know, man. It's interesting. The Ravens are most people have considered them to be just like the AFC, NFC. They're just be like, oh, the Ravens are winning the Super Bowl this year. That's pretty much what everyone
Yeah.
thinks. Um, and so we'll see what happens with that, obviously. But let's jump into that, Cam. What do you think about this game? We'll go topic by topic, and then we'll jump into that game. So what do you think about that game? How do you think it's going to go? Give me your thoughts on that. Um,
Um. I've been thinking about this game all week because this is one of my more exciting games. Um, I really like the Tennessee Titans defense. I'm a fan of it, but and I believe that Mike Vrabel will have these guys very disciplined and ready to stop Lamar Jackson. That's I mean that to stopping Lamar Jackson, making sure he doesn't hurt you, you know, outside the pocket. He's gonna make plays. He's gonna make plays, but you you have to be able to make plays when he throws the ball. Get turnovers. That's the name of the game. Get turnovers. Make Lamar Jackson turn the ball over. And the Baltimore's Ravens offense off the field. So they have the upper hand in having Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's going to have to be a warrior through these playoffs. He's Derrick Henry's going to have to do what I asked what Zeke from my Cowboys to do. Hey, dude, you're going to have to run the ball, and we're going to play keep away. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure Lamar Jackson doesn't get warm because I believe Lamar Jackson's a streaky passer. I think it takes, a few completions here and there for him to get going. So if you can stop that, oh man, you put yourself ahead. So the Titans have the recipe. They have a solid defense. One of the better defenses, a veteran led defense. I like it. They're fast. They rally to the ball. Run the ball. That's all you got to do. Run the rock. Ryan Tannehill, make plays when you can, and the Titans can win this game. And I got a lot of Raven fans on my Facebook. I got a lot of I'm a Lamar Jackson fan myself. I called this happening. I knew what he would become, but I'm choosing the Tennessee Titans. I got the Titans over the Ravens, and I'm gonna stick with it.
Wow. That'll obviously be interesting if that happens, but I'm
Oh,
right there with you, man. I think that if you want to beat the Ravens, that's exactly what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to control the clock. They cannot continue to give Lamar Jackson opportunity after opportunity, and then they really have to play stout defense. You have to make you have to make Lamar Jackson earn everything. The mismatch that'll take place is who are they going to have that's going to watch Lamar that's going to stop him from doing pretty much what he's done all season. Um, that'll be really interesting to see if that happens. But the whole dynamic with Ryan Tannehill is the question mark. Is like what Ryan, because we've seen Ryan Tannehill come out and look like a monster, and then we've seen
oh
him come
yeah.
out and look like a backup, you know? So it's like, which Ryan Tannehill are you going to get? And then, if you're going to come out and throw the ball, AJ Brown has to be involved.
Yes.
Against New England, he had one catch, dude. That is not okay. That's
Nope.
just not going to work. You got to if you're going to waste your time throwing the ball and take the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands, then you better be getting AJ Brown
You
cuz
have to.
everything that Derrick Henry is as a runner as far as being a man amongst boys, AJ Brown is also that from the receiver position.
Oh, just give him the ball and let him and just watch him. Get him the ball and watch him run. He knows where to go with it. And he's just bigger. Like I feel like DK. People didn't put we put so much emphasis on how big DK Metcalf is that we forget DK Metcalf's a freak of nature, and AJ Brown's literally like right here below him. Like AJ Brown's a specimen. And so the Titans have to find a way to feed him the ball, not necessarily, hey, just run and go routes, crossing routes, out routes. Just get the ball in his hands and he can get you to where you want to be, and that's possibly the AFC Championship, possibly a Super Bowl. Who knows?
Right, that's a real possibility, and the what is interesting is how that's gonna how that's all gonna play out. I'm looking for plain and simple, dude. The divisional round is the best round of the playoffs.
Oh
There's
yeah,
there's
oh yeah.
no there's no debating it. You could say wild card, you could say conference championship, you could say Super Bowl. The divisional round is the
Division.
best
Oh
round of the
man.
playoffs. Okay, and then Matt here says that kind of throws some credibility to the Titans because he says beating New England
Yeah.
without AJ Brown really being involved says something. And he's absolutely right because one of your best playmakers on offense didn't even get involved and you still won against. You can say what you want about the Patriots, but that defense for the Patriots, specifically that secondary, was
It's
for real.
legit.
Yeah.
It's legit, man.
Stephon Gilmore was rated one of the top two corners in the NFL this year. So, I mean,
The deep. There's literally a likely chance that he takes home defensive MVP, defensive player of the year.
he
Like
could.
it's an actual argument. I'm. I don't know. I think he might just because of the hype that he built this season. Are you not gonna throw my way? Every time you throw my way, I'm gonna intercept the ball. Like that is man, that's insane.
So let's go to our
Let
next game. You picked the
yes,
Titans. Oh
I'm
man,
taking
I
the
gotta make
Titans.
I gotta make my pick here. I'm gonna go Baltimore just to go against you, but I am not gonna be upset at all if Tennessee wins, just because they're
I know
such a
I
fun
know you
team
want
to
yeah,
watch.
yes. Oh, my Mavericks
Um,
lost.
oh,
Damn it,
that's
Mavs.
not good.
Oh, they lost about 1 point. Oh, I'm so
Okay,
sad right now. Man,
So okay, let's talk about Houston and Kansas City. No, let's go the other let's go to NFC Saturday. So we'll go Minnesota.
that
No, we're not going that. We're
oh
not going
dang
there yet.
it.
That one,
I'm excited for
yeah.
that one.
Or yeah. That's we're gonna go in order on how these games are gonna go. I don't know. I don't know
Okay,
if
that works.
or if yeah,
That
but
that makes
okay.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So let's talk about Minnesota and San Francisco. Minnesota goes into New Orleans, beats New Orleans. Um, and then now you're talking about Minnesota traveling to San Francisco. Um, I do not know how this game's going to go. I just literally have no idea. Um, San Francisco has pretty much beat up on most of the teams they played, except for the Seahawks. They've just really just been blowing teams out for a good chunk of the year. So that whole situation is going to be interesting. Tell me what you think. What are your feelings? Do you feel like it's going to be a close game, a blowout? I told you this divisional round is wild, but what do you think?
I guess the stigma of Kirk Cousins not winning big games is over. I don't want to say it's over, but I mean he won it. He threw the game-winning touchdown against the
No,
Saints,
it's
and
over. It's over
it's
now.
I
Once you
think
do that, dude,
yeah.
what people aren't talking about in that game is like, yeah, he threw the game-winning touchdown pass. Did you see the throw before that got them there? Because that was the best throw I've ever
That
seen
was
Kirk Cousins throw.
that was the big one right there. That was the major pro. Oh man, and no, it kind of shows that. I mean, when we think about it, Adam Thielen's been hurt most of the season, and so Dalvin Cook has had to step up, but Kirk Cousins also has elevated his game. He's had a great statistical season without Adam Thielen, and so that's really important. Um, but I don't know if he's played anything like the San Francisco 49ers. Um, I've been I've been I've been high on them all season long, and I've predicted that they would make it this far. And I'm not going to turn my back on them. Not yet. I'm not going to turn my back on them yet. I don't think the we've seen Kirk Cousins get sacked quite a bit, and so I believe that 49ers defensive line will get after Kirk Cousins. I believe he'll get a little bit easily win this game because they run the ball. They run the ball really effectively. But it also depends on which Jimmy Garoppolo you get. I think him and Kirk Cousins are kind of in the same boat. As long as you don't throw an interception, those guys are good. Like those guys aren't turning the ball over, man. You more than likely their team is going to win the game, and so oh man, it's a lot of pressure on Jimmy G right now. And so this is my first time seeing Garoppolo. Like that was my first time kind of seeing Kirk Cousins last week in that situation. And so this is my first time seeing Jimmy Garoppolo in this situation. And so we're gonna have a great game. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Gonna have a great game, but I got the 49ers winning this game.
Yeah, Matt here again says, let me throw it up here. He says San Francisco's going to mollywop, which means they're going to blow them out. Wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise
Yeah.
me. Minnesota, they do some things that are interesting. Dalvin Cook played a good game, but let's talk about this. These 49ers and their defense, you are not going to get away with
Man.
some of the stuff you got away with last week.
Yes.
San Francisco has had plenty of time to prepare for you. And so they understand what's going on. I think they're living off of some hype right now, and that's fine, and they're playing well, and they deserve the hype that they're getting. It will be interesting. I'm with Matt. I kind of envision it as being a blowout, but then there's also a part of me who's like, well, maybe because this is what San Francisco does. They get up on people early and they kind of like suck the life out of them. And then, you know,
Yes.
and then if you aren't a team that's kind of battle tested and that can jump back from that type of stuff, then you just kind of fall. And I don't know how battle tested Minnesota is. I understand they're a wild card team. They're the 6th seed in the NFC. But like, let's say Kirk Cousins, let's say San Francisco wins a toss, right? And then Minnesota gets the ball first. And they screw up. Kirk Cousins throws a pick. San Francisco scores. They get the ball again. A running back fumbles or something. Get the ball back.
Over. It's over.
And it's 14-0. Are the Minnesota Vikings designed to be able to, come back from that
No.
and handle business? That whole dynamic will be interesting. I think if Minnesota can control the pace of the game a little bit, a lot like what we talked about with the Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans, that they can remain competitive in this game, but that still remains to be seen. But I'm with you. I'm going to go San Francisco in this one. What do you think the score is going to look like in this game? Do you think the score is going to be lopsided or?
No, I got the score lopsided. It'll be, I believe the 49ers can put up 30. I think they'll put up 30 points, and
So 49ers put up 30 points. Matt here says the Vikings only win if Stephon Diggs lines up against Sherman. That's something that's like really funny. Yeah, because who is going to cover Adam Thielen? And then Kyle Rudolph has kind of had a little bit of a resurgence himself. I'm not sure exactly what is going on with Cam's video here, but we'll get that figured out, and he'll be right back with us. But yeah, Kyle Rudolph is kind of like, a lot of people thought he was, in ending the his run with Minnesota. He hasn't really panned out to what people have wanted from him in Minnesota, but it'll be interesting to see how he does against San Francisco's defense. San Francisco's defense has been very, very stingy this whole season. There hasn't been a whole lot of scoring against them and all that stuff. So let's see here. Okay, looks like we got him back. Back. Okay. Yeah, so Cam, what I was saying is that Kyle Rudolph hasn't exactly panned out to what Minnesota fans had wanted. A lot of hype behind him. Matt here says that it's the way that the Vikings win is if Stephon Diggs lines up against Sherman, and Diggs is the type of guy
he's gonna have to burn him. He's gonna have to burn him. He's gonna have to go deep, and you're gonna have to hit him deep. And that oh man, Matt, you might be onto something. Dang it, you might be onto something.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And a part of me also thinks, like, why not put Thielen on Sherman? Because Thielen's kind of known as the workhorse guy. He'll just run and run and run and run, and hopefully you can tire Sherman out that way. But who really knows? You don't know what Mike Zimmer's got planned. But the real problem, and you mentioned it earlier, is what is Jimmy Garoppolo going to do? Because he's the weak link of this 49ers team. Is he going to be good? Is he going to be bad? No one really knows. My buddy Will here, man, he's a he's a Jags truther. He's always making these Blake Bortles jokes. He says if I'm correct, Blake Bortles has more playoff wins than either of these QBs, both combined. Probably because
he does.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not worried about Bortles right now. Bortles is at home on the couch, sitting right next to Jared Goff. Anyway, so yeah, I'm still going to pick San Francisco in a lopsided victory. I think they kind of smack them around. Yeah. I just don't trust that Minnesota's going to be able to put something together that's really going to chase chase the 49ers out of that spot. But I'll say this: if Garoppolo has a bad game, like I'm talking multiple interception game,
They'll lose.
they'll lose. Because we've seen it where he's thrown
They'll
3
yeah,
interceptions and fumbles and all that good stuff. If he
and
does,
they get smacked.
yeah. So, okay. So let's move on to our next game. We got Houston, and Kansas City. They're going to Kansas City. Kansas City is a very loud, a lot like Seattle, very loud place to play.
Oh yeah.
It's a tough environment. It's probably the weather's probably not going to be very friendly. But tell me what you think about that game.
Oh man. Well, I didn't have the Texans even making it out of the wild card, and so the Bills had the game sold, and they let me down. And so the reason I didn't want the Texans to advance is because for this reason here, they're not on the same level as Kansas City, and Kansas City's gonna find a. Oh man, it's. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If Deshaun Watson finds a way to win this game, I feel like we have to crown him the best quarterback in the NFL. I feel like it's automatic. If he finds a way to rally this team to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but then again, there is one thing that I am missing out on. JJ Watt's back. He's back. Like there's no denying it. He still has something left in the tank because when he got that sack against Josh Allen last week, when it all started with that sack. That's when the comeback happened. They sacked Josh Allen on the third down, and then the floodgates open, and here come the Texans. And so it's all about getting after Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if I trust the Texans defense. I don't know if I trust them. But if somehow, some way, Whitney Merciless and J.J. Watt, who've been playing together for so long, it seems like this has been going on for so many years. If that duo there can find a way to get after Patrick Mahomes, they can win this game. But I just don't necessarily see it happening. I've seen a score of Houston 24, Kansas City 27. I see Kansas City 32, Houston 0. I wish. I got Kansas City winning this game, though. I'll say 28-17. I think that's what the score will be. I just don't think the Texans have enough to be able to contain the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, we got a couple people here. We got Hector says KC 32, Houston 0. I doubt that KC's going to stop Houston from scoring at least a field goal. Nathan earlier said he said Kansas City 27, Houston 24.
Kansas City's defense ain't that good.
And then Omar here is hopping in. He says, if someone hits Patrick Mahomes, that's it for Kansas City. I mean, you could say that about any game, any team. You know, if your starting quarterback goes down, you're pretty much screwed. Here's what I would say. If you watch the last game, Houston versus Buffalo, Buffalo was up 16-0 at one point. If Houston thinks that they're going to make a comeback against Kansas City by digging themselves into a hole like that. That is absolutely not the case, and it's not going to happen ever. Kansas City's defense has been playing very well over the last, I'd say, 5 weeks. They have been playing at a much higher level than they've played all season. It'll be interesting to see how they come out and play this Houston team. I'll tell you that do you see someone who can match up with DeAndre Hopkins? Because I don't. Do you see someone on that Kansas City defense who can run with Will Fuller? Because I don't. I don't see any of it.
Wait. And so, is Will going to be available this week?
I don't know. I'm just saying that if assuming he's healthy, if he is healthy.
If he is healthy, then you hit it right on the money. That I don't trust the Kansas City secondary, like corner wise. You know, they got Tyrann Mathieu, they got Juan Thornhill, who Cowboys are gonna draft, but no, we let them go. And so safety wise, they're fine. corner wise, you're right. I don't know who it would have to be a um, feed DeAndre Hopkins kind of day, like feed him the ball and let him go win you the game. That's what I see. I know they're going to try to run the ball with Nick Chubb. I mean, not Nick Chubb, but Carlos Hyde. But to me, I think the weakest link is Kansas City secondary.
Yeah, you might be right on that, but I think they'll be able to. Kansas City's offense is going to be able to make up for it. This is still a game where I see Kansas City winning. I see Kansas City winning this game 30-17 because the Texans this year have been so hot and cold. On any given game, they can get blown out or they can blow someone out. And that was the thing that was interesting about their matchups with the Bills last week is the Bills were kind of the same way. But I just don't see it. Here's the thing. If Houston starts and they're scoring and they're throwing the ball over the place and all that good stuff, I'm like, I'll say, great, this is going to be a good game. But if they come out like they came out in the first half last week, not interested. They're going to get blown out.
They're going to get – nope. Yes.
Yeah. So, the thing that really changed the momentum last week was when J.J. Watt got a sack on third down and forced the Bills to kick a field goal. As soon as that play happened, the entire thing changed.
Oh, my gosh.
The floodgates opened. The momentum completely shifted. And you know this from playing football that especially in football, when momentum starts to shift, you need to do whatever you can possibly do to change it. Because it is it's like being on a roller coaster, it's gonna go and you gotta find a way to change its direction and all that stuff. It's just 100 miles an hour in one direction. And so you need to, and that was the thing that Buffalo couldn't stop. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to stop it. They couldn't. It was impossible. And so
Josh Allen's inexperience showed its ugly head. And I didn't think it would, but he was trying to make so many plays that his small mistakes is what was keeping the Texans in the game. Like when he pitched that ball back for no reason at all, pitched the ball back. It's not like you're in the final seconds, dude. It was like, this is before the 2 minute. No, this is during the 2 minute warning. You decided, I'm going to pitch the ball back. You created even more. Like the crowd was like, "Oh, we're gonna win this game, dude, because of you. You're gonna allow us to win this game." And so, oh man, yeah, momentum's a crazy thing. And so if the Texans can get momentum on their side, then yeah, they can win this game. But once again, you're playing in one of the toughest places to play. I would say I got Seattle first, and then literally right behind them, Kansas City. That crowd is insane. And so I just don't think that they'll be able to handle all of that in a divisional round matchup.
Yeah, so we both take Kansas City. Is that what your pick was?
That's exactly where my pick is going, Kansas City.
Okay, so now let's get to the game that I care about most, obviously. So Matt earlier put a comment on here, and he says, on paper, the Packers should crush the Seahawks. How can the Seahawks win this weekend? And I just wanted to touch on that for a second, because I don't know what paper he's looking at, but I know the paper that I'm looking at. And the paper that I'm looking at says that these teams are very, very close in what types of teams they are, how successful they've been, and all that stuff. Here's something that's interesting about this game. Russell Wilson absolutely balled out last week. We ran the ball a little bit, just enough to make them respect the chance to run. Well, I mean, we weren't very effective because we have backup offensive linemen in there, and Fletcher Cox was still there, and he was just like unblockable.
A man among boys. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was unstoppable last week. They did their best to Russell Wilson only got sacked one time, so and it wasn't by
Yeah,
Fletcher Cox. So, but Fletcher Cox was in there stuffing the run and just being disruptive and doing all the things that don't show up on stat sheets.
paper. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And so he got in there and he just messed up a lot of things for us, which is fine, whatever, because at the end of the day, you didn't win the game, so I don't care. But I'll say this: he was unstoppable. Um,
Yes.
but these teams are very similar, and if you start to look a little deeper into these few teams that are left, the Packers have the worst strength of schedule of all the teams that made the playoffs. They had the easiest
Speak on it.
they had the easiest path to the playoffs. I don't have most fan bases. I'm like, man, I don't like this or I don't like that. I have no problems with the Packers, but I will tell you that the Seahawks have a horrendous history going to Green Bay. We have beat the Packers the last two. No, not the last two. Two out of the three. The last times we played them. So going all the way back to the NFC Championship where we had that comeback against them, and then the very next season, the Packers beat us like 31-3 in Seattle. They smacked us around pretty good. And then last season we beat the Packers in Seattle. But these teams are a little bit different now. I will say that, in my opinion, the way to win this game is to stop Aaron Jones. If
Yes.
you make Aaron Jones kind of irrelevant in the game by locking him down, and
You can
because
win the game.
yeah, just flat out you can win the game because Aaron Rodgers at that point is only left with Devontae Adams. And I mean,
And
there's
I
there's some
haven't really been impressed with those two.
yeah, I mean, because Rodgers has been throwing a lot to Aaron Jones this year, and
Yes.
he actually missed Aaron Jones a ton the final week of the season because they were actually playing. Unlike a lot of teams, the Packers were actually playing because they were fighting for their playoff seeding lives, and so
Mm-hmm.
the dude, I don't remember how many touchdowns Aaron Jones had in the final week of the regular season, but he should have had like 5 because Aaron Rodgers missed him multiple times that were like, I mean, Aaron Jones ran a wheel route to the outside and just up the sideline, and Aaron Rodgers just flat out missed him. And that's kind of been the story of Aaron Rodgers this year. He's seemed off his game multiple times this year. 2 games where you should think that the Packers should blow a team out. They played 2 very close games against the Lions. They
Yes.
they played a close game against Minnesota and one time, and then one time they blew them out. They played a close game against the Bears, and then I think they blew them out the second time. Next to the NFC East, the NFC North is the worst division of football after the NFC East for this year. The Lions are historically a terrible franchise, just terrible. Matt Stafford has zero backbone, and I mean, I'm just not impressed with a lot of the team.
I see what you did there. That was a good. That was good. I like that one. Wow.
Um, yeah, so I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I mean, Jimmy Graham on the Packers, he used to be on the Seahawks. We've known that he can't block. He's strictly a pass catching tight end. He's not going to offer
He
you
doesn't really do that good anymore either.
yeah, so he's not going to offer you, definitely not going to offer you anything in the run game because he's never been able to do that, and he's not really doing a whole lot of pass catching in Green Bay anymore either. And he really hasn't been the same since maybe about first or second year in Seattle because I think we had him for 4, maybe 3. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I think
Um,
I think 3. Yeah.
yeah, so he just hasn't been great really since he left New Orleans, if you think about it. But yeah, the whole thing is up in the air for me. Nobody wants to go to Lambeau and play in Lambeau at nighttime in January. I don't care what team you are
No.
and how battle tested you are. I looked at the weather today.
No.
It's supposed to be 25 degrees. And so I'm like, just don't snow, dude. Just don't snow or rain, and we'll call it good. Just the
Yeah.
weather it, deal with it, whatever. Put those jet engine things that they put on the sidelines so that you could stay warm, and
Oh
just
man.
do what you can do.
And
And
those only do so good, those only are good for so long, it's still gonna be cold.
yeah, I mean, those were good for a little bit, but I don't know if you've ever stood in front of one, but I have, and they definitely warm you up, but they also burn your flesh. So
Yes.
good luck on that.
But
But hey, tell me, what do you think about this game?
dude, everything you said, I agree with. If they're not feeding Aaron Jones, I don't know what it is. If they're not feeding Aaron Jones, that offense can't do anything. Which sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. Like you're like, but I have Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. What do you mean I can't do anything? Those two, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, hasn't necessarily been on the same page. It's kind of been the Aaron Jones show. When you look at Aaron Rodgers' stats over the season, he's been below. I don't want to. I hate to say below average because I don't necessarily put all of my focus into stats. But if you just watch him and also look at the stats, you're like, man, he's coverage, but they're so run heavy. And Aaron Jones takes so many short catches for long touchdowns that you kind of miss out. That kind of goes over your head when you think about the Green Bay Packers. And so also when you take into account of their strength of schedule, of course they got the number one seed, but I don't think that I don't think that they're ready for the Seattle Seahawks, who have been battle tested all season long. Those guys play great on the road. They played great on the road all season. This isn't a first time thing for them. They were able to take care of the Philadelphia Eagles, and so I think they'll be able to take care of the Packers. It'll be close because that's what Seattle does to us. It'll be close.
That's every
I
game.
got Seattle every game. I got Seattle winning this game 23-20. And here's how it's going to happen. Aaron Rodgers is going to get the ball with about a minute left on the clock, and they won't be able to pull off the win.
Okay, first of all, I hate that Aaron Rodgers gets the ball that late because you and I
It kills me every time.
both know that when Dak and Zeke were rookies in that playoff game, everyone was all celebrating and all that stuff. Like, yeah, we scored. I'm like, yeah, but there's 38 seconds on the clock. Most
Who does
quarterbacks,
that with 38 seconds?
I know that's what I'm saying. Most quarterbacks, I'd be like, nah, that's not enough time. But with Rodgers, I'm like, he can literally throw from end zone to end zone. So it's like, oh, that's way too much time. So I don't know, man. I don't know, man.
I'm
I'm
telling you,
cool. I'm cool now, but like once a game is about like 15 minutes away from starting, we're in trouble. I just get real antsy and all that stuff. Normally I grab like a bag of Skittles to like kind of chew on so that like my brain and like hands are busy, because I'll just sit there and I'll just get real nervous. I'll pace back and forth like I'm about to go to a job interview or something. I don't know. I just get
I'm telling you, man,
I get real
it's
weird.
not gonna work. It's not gonna work because the Smith brothers are going to have you on edge. I believe they're going to get a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson. But I mean, as he always does, he'll make something happen. But it'll be really late in the game that what I'm telling you is gonna be really late in the game that Russell Wilson's gonna make a play and we're gonna be like, oh, finally. So, but I got Seattle winning this game 23-20.
Okay, yeah. The only thing I would say to the Smith brothers is we handled pretty well um, San Francisco San Francisco's defensive line. And if we can handle that
Yes,
defensive line without giving up
yes.
tons and tons of sacks, then I think we're okay. Not that they won't get pressure. I'm just saying that it's not like we're going to be sinking by that. We'll still be afloat. Dwayne Brown's a mystery one this week.
Oh, I really hope he plays. I really hope he's
Yeah,
available.
he had a knee surgery and he's coming back to practice this week, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I'll tell you, we need
Nah.
him. We need him. Hey, but I want to get to this question real quick. Sebastian just dropped a question in here, but before we get to that, let's talk about real quick. The Cowboys have the least, I feel like the least amount of players under contract. We kind of talked about this off air a little bit. We talked about how
Yeah.
how Dak is the man that needs to get paid because then they know what they can realistically pay everyone else that they want to
Hmm.
pay this year. You know, the franchise tag, I feel like more than ever for the Cowboys is definitely in play this year. Um, and if I were to guess right now, I would say that they would sign Dak to a contract, franchise tag
And
Amari, and then pay the rest of them, and then start next year
getting
start
Amari taken
get
care of,
Amari.
yeah.
Yeah, but what do you think about that?
Um, to me, it is honestly that is what I would do. Get Dak sewed up, take care of Dak. He's taken care of. He's done everything you've asked him to do. Amari Cooper was really banged up most of the season, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see Amari Cooper have surgery. I'm telling you, be ready for that headline if you see it. Amari Cooper having surgery on something, an ankle, a knee. He was banged up all season long, and so I believe the Cowboys would franchise tag him. It's still a great paycheck for him. That's guaranteed money, and so as a receiver, when you just see the word guaranteed money, it looks great. And so I think they'll franchise tag him and probably get a deal done for Amari Cooper somewhere in the middle of the season. But you just take care of everybody else. You got to think about it. The Dallas Cowboys will be a free agent haven for a lot of players coming up because their players are going to look like, oh, they got a new coach. There's a new coaching staff there. I can try to get as much money as possible. They're definitely going to need a defensive tackle. They're probably going to need some defensive ends because Robert Quinn's only on a 1 year deal, and so it'll be real interesting to see what they do with this money. But you're right. The first step has to be get Dak Prescott taken care of. And I'm interested to see what happens with Byron Jones because I have the Dallas Cowboys drafting a safety or a corner, and I'll make sure I cover that. Once I get a really good idea, I don't want to just start throwing out random names and be completely wrong. But I believe they're going to take a safety, and so I think they'll find a way to get Byron Jones taken care of for the season.
Yeah, you mentioned that the Cowboys are going to be like kind of that hot spot for free agents, and a lot like the Cowboys, I think the Seahawks are also going to be a hot spot for free agents because we now have so much money cleared up. We're going to have, I believe, top three money in the NFL as far as free money that's available because we're finally getting the Cam Chancellor money that's coming off the books. We're getting a lot of this money
Yes.
that's coming off the books. The Cowboys are finally getting the Tony Romo money that's coming off the books. All those things, those help your team so you can go out and get guys. But let's hop into this question from Sebastian real quick, and he basically says here, what are your guys' top three moments? So I'll give one, you give one, and then we'll kind of talk about the third one. But my question, no, do you have one on your mind right now?
I do actually. I have
Okay,
one on my mind.
you go ahead and go first, and I'll take the second one.
All right, first one has to be San Francisco 49ers versus the New Orleans Saints. George Kittle, a 5 yard out route for
Oh.
35 yards, carrying three defenders into field goal range to win the game. That right there showed exactly why I was like so high on the San Francisco 49ers. It was amazing to see uh, it's really good when you see, players get the well-deserved credit. People are like, oh man, this guy's really great. George Kittle is a great tight end. And watching him do that to the New Orleans Saints was everything. Even though I had the Saints going to the Super Bowl, that moment in regular season wise was just perfection for me. And so that was one of my top moments.
Right. That was incredible because that was a situation where the dude got burnt, right? And the next dude that came in was like, man, I got to punch this ball out and get him the fumble because if I don't, we're losing this game. And in the
Yes.
meantime, George Kittle's just carrying two dudes about 30 yards down the field. So, yeah, he's the best
Oh,
tight
it
end in
was
football.
perfect.
There's is I don't even think it's close. But yeah, I think he's the best
Um,
tight end in football.
I think Travis Kelsey is a close second, but I think George Kittle's his blocking is so much better than
Yeah.
Travis Kelsey's that you kind of have to pick him.
Yeah. My did he say okay, just top 3 moments. Okay, it wasn't a favorite
Yeah,
moment,
stop.
but um and it wasn't just one specific moment, but I'll just say the overall dysfunction and hype and everything that was the 2019 Cleveland Browns.
Yes.
You know, supposed to go to the Super Bowl, supposed to make the playoffs, supposed to win the division, and it was just none of that stuff. And they were just
No,
functional as could be. And what's interesting is a lot of people think that Baker Mayfield just had this horrendous year. His numbers are pretty much identical to his numbers from last season. The only difference is he just threw more interceptions.
more
Um,
interceptions. That's it.
and the team just wasn't very good the whole year, and I think that's what it
No.
was. But that's what happens when you have an immature, not ready coach as your head coach. And
Yes.
so they get a new guy in there. I think they'll be okay. But they were just that whole. I mean, they dominated the media this year with how just Baker Mayfield going after someone on Twitter or like Odell.
Miles Garrett.
Yeah, oh
Oh
yeah. The
man.
helmet smashed and all that stuff. Yeah. That whole situation was just wild. That whole team, that whole organization this year was awful. And so they kind of, as all the good things they did last year, they kind of reverted back to being the regular old Cleveland Browns this year. So,
Man, right when we thought that hey, you got enough talent, which you've never said about the Cleveland Browns. Oh, hey, you got enough talent. It's a shame to see how that fell apart so fast. Like it happened so fast.
right.
Like we were like, oh, they should win this game, and then they lose that game, and then you're like, okay, you should win this game, and they lose that game, and you're like, okay, something's not right, and we got to see the old Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. Okay. So for our third moment, do you have something that's in your mind that just pops out immediately?
Not immediately. What about you?
Um, One of the things that I kind of think about is just like, and I guess it's just like it's a bias thing for me, but just just the two dog fights that San Francisco and Seattle have had this year. I mean,
Oh,
the first one going into overtime and overtime barely being able to decide it, and then the second one, you lose. The Seahawks lose the game on the eighth of an
not
inch
even
line.
not even
Like,
the one.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, just like stupid close. And I said this when it happened. He could have scored on that play, but whatever call was gonna get made on the field was the call that was gonna stand. I feel like
Yeah.
if they would have called that touchdown, they wouldn't have overturned it. Just like they
No,
didn't
no.
call it a touchdown, they're not going to
And
overturn it and make it
they
a
couldn't overturn
yeah.
it.
And so I'll just say these two teams this year have just been fighting hard. And I know that you probably don't want to hear this, but another one has just kind of been like how the Eagles kind of made their little I mean, they ultimately lost in the first round of the playoffs, but just the improbable 4-game stretch to get back into the playoffs. But
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
they
that,
did
no,
play
that, no, that's
they
impressive.
only played NFC East teams, and I think they played the Redskins twice during that stretch, so that doesn't
Yeah.
or they played
Yeah.
the Giants twice, I don't remember.
I
But
think it's Giants twice, yeah.
yeah, those things kind of stick out, and then just the idea on this last one here that the Miami Dolphins can trade all of their tradable assets away and then win and then start winning games. How insane is that?
Yes, yes. Like they the fact that they were hold on the fact that they competed all season long should blow people's minds. Like these guys were like people were like, oh, they're tanking, and meanwhile, they're unloading players, they're getting rid of guys that aren't, they didn't feel like were their guys, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, hey, we can play, we can win some games, we know what we're doing, and you got. I mean, I got you. We're gonna. I'm telling you right now, the Dolphins are going to be a team to watch. Not necessarily next season. I want to say 2 seasons from now, but this season is like the stepping stone. Like you're right, that is a top moment of the year. I want to say my honorable mention, Jameis Winston's 30 for 30.
Woo! 30 for 30.
That is 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. That is my honorable mention top moments of the regular season there.
Man, what if
So
how do those 30 for 30 start? Those little videos that they do. It's like, what if I
I got
told
you.
you? Yeah.
Yes. What if I told you there's a man who led the NFL in all passing categories and still threw 30 interceptions in a season? None
Yikes.
other than Jameis Winston. Oh
Yikes.
man. And then his press conference after that was even better. Look at my numbers. I'm balling. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
also throwing the ball over to the
Yeah.
other team, but I'm balling. No, the fact that he throws a pick six to end the season, pick six, they lose the game. They could have gone 8-8. Instead, they finished 7-9, and I would have been really impressed if they gone 8-8. I'm not gonna lie, I would have been really impressed if the Buccaneers finished 8-8. But instead 7-9, and it looks really bad. And sorry, Jameis, but you're one of my top moments of the season.
That's not even the most savage moment from what happened, because Bruce Arians is the head coach
Oh
there now, and
yes.
and he went to the microphone, and I guess someone asked him a question, something quarterback related, and his response was, "Well, we won with this quarterback. We can win with anybody." And I was just like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, this dude is
Yeah.
like straight shots at Jameis Winston." But
But I mean, it's true. Like it's true. You just you first off, you're not supposed to win games if your quarterback throws 30 interceptions. That doesn't. You're not supposed to win games if that happens because that means he's just turning the ball over at all times of the game. Uh, I really honestly believe he set a record for throwing the most interceptions on the first play. Like literally the start of the game, he always throws the interception at the start of the game. I'm like, how do you do that? How do you just come out and go, all right, here you go, first pass? And so I'm gonna be excited to see what quarterback Bruce Arians decided to get his hands on. Oh my gosh.
right, that's gonna be crazy. Um, but let's go ahead for tonight's show here. Wrap this up. We
Is there
made our
did we
prediction
cover all the
for the
games?
yeah, we got them all. So
All right, all right.
we're down to the Elite Eight. We got 4 games. So but let's go, and I just want to remind everyone who's watching that you can find the Flex Network on Twitter. If I can get this thing, there it is. It's at the Flex Network 1 on Twitter. Find us there. We have all of our content, and then of course our Facebook page. Our Facebook, you can just search Flex Network on Facebook and you can find us. Give us a follow on Twitter and like our page on Facebook. Maybe share it. There's actually a really quick thing that you can do. If you wanted to invite people to like our page, you can go to our Flex Network page. You can scroll over to the right. I believe it's community, and you click on that, and then an invite all button, or yeah, invite all button will pop up right there. You click that, and it gives you the ability to invite all your Facebook friends to like our page. And I mean, you should do that, obviously, because that's a way that you can support us without having to spend any money at all. It's free, it's easy, and it's up to the people if they want to like it or not. So there's no pressure on you there. So we appreciate you guys listening. You can find me on Twitter at FlexMike11. You can find Cam on Twitter at CowboyCam11. Cam's active on there, bringing you all the Cowboy news and everything that he's got from his sources and stuff like that. So we'll until next time, I believe we'll be back next week.
Yes.
We'll be breaking down some wins, some losses. Hopefully, a win for me. But we'll we'll see what's going on. But Cam, anything you want to say before we sign off here?
um, I don't want to be that fan. No, I'm not. I'm not. I was gonna be like, I'm gonna be that Cowboy fan. Cowboys Super Bowl 2020. But nah, I'm not. I can't do that. Nah. You guys, man, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you keep watching those coaching changes all over the NFL because there's still a few teams who are probably moving off of coaches during this off season, and so it'll be really interesting to see what happens. Also, what happens to Cam Newton is going to be a huge topic.
He's going to Las Vegas.
Yo, man, there's several quarterbacks I have in my mind going to Vegas, and so yeah, we'll get into all of that. Yes.
So okay, as for myself, Flex Mike and Cowboy Cam, we will catch you guys later.
Peace.